What's on at your gallery?
It's Kids Arts Day, every day. Here's what we're doing in today's fun episode. Before we begin, grab your corresponding art kit, available from the Niagara Falls Art Gallery, or grab the following supplies from home so you can follow along.
Today I'm going to be using a piece of paper that's approximately 12 by 18 inches or 30 by 44 centimeters. Today we're also going to need something round. So I've got this yogurt container, and you can see it's about 11 to 12 centimeters in width or diameter, but look around, you might have a bowl, a plate, a cup, something that's about this size that we can trace for our drawing. Okay, so we are ready to get started. Today we're going to be drawing this cute little elephant. Alright, so I'm going to start by grabbing from my pastel bin a white. Now if you have a white, you can also start with that, but you may be using a white piece of paper, so you may want to use a pencil or something else. So let's grab our round shape. I've got my yogurt cup, and we're going to find a place for it on the paper. So I'm going to start by putting my hand on the left side of my paper, my thumb outstretched, and that's about how far in I want my cup to be. And from the top, I want to measure about 2 to 3 fingers. Now your fingers might be a little bit smaller than mine or a little bit bigger. That's okay. So once we have our spot, we're going to take our white or whatever we're drawing with, and we're going to trace the outside of our round object. Lift it up, make sure it's good, and there we go, we've got a circle. So this is going to be for our elephant's head. Now we also need a circle for the elephant's body. So I'm going to find a spot, I'm going to go from where I was, and I'm going to come down here. Now we don't want it to be too low, and we'll have no room for our elephant's legs, and we don't want it to be too high, because we'll have a really skinny body. So about halfway up through the yogurt cup, or your bowl, your plate, whatever you have, about halfway is where we want this line to intersect. And I'm going to trace my circle again. Now we know an elephant doesn't have a circle body, but don't worry, we will figure that out later. The first thing we're going to draw on our elephant is its trunk. So we're going to start right here where our circle meets our other circle. And we're going to start by drawing a big, sort of like a big smile. So I'm going to come from here and out, and I want to leave about 2 to 3 fingers again from the edge of my paper, and this is going to be the length of my trunk. Now we're going to draw the tip of our trunk, and there's going to be a little bird sitting on there, so we want to give some good height here. So I'm going to come up and draw like a big rainbow, or sort of like a little candy cane. Once we have that, we're going to take the end of our little rainbow and we're going to connect it back into our elephant's head. So let's try that. And there we go, we've got our elephant's trunk. Now what we can do is come back to our line we drew to start, and this, where it overlaps on our head, is actually going to be our elephant's smile. So I'm going to put a little rainbow here to make the smile of our elephant. Now let's give our elephant a face. So I'm going to start with an eye. Now our elephant is turned to the side, so we're actually only going to be able to see one eye on our elephant. So I'm going to go up from my mouth so it's not too close. Right in the middle of this circle is a good place for our eye. And I'm going to draw an oval. Sort of like we're drawing an egg. Inside of my eye, I'm going to draw in the top left corner an even smaller oval for the little shine in our elephant's eye. If you're using a white, you can go ahead and color this in, so we don't forget to do it later. We want to give our elephant some hair. So at the top, I'm going to give my elephant some little strings of hair. You can make your hair look however you want. You can make it have a little crazy head of hair. I'm just going to have a little star shape at the top. Now I'm going to add some details to my elephant. I think my elephant is a girl, so I'm going to add a few little eyelashes, and maybe we want to give her a rosy cheek. That's another oval, and then we want to make sure we have a rainbow shape on top of our eye for an eyebrow. Next up are our elephant's ears. Now elephants have really big ears, so let's start by imagining there's a line that goes from the top of our eye out to the outside of our elephant's head, and that's where we want to start our ear. So I'm going to come here And I'm going to draw a big curved line, again, sort of like a rainbow. And now we're going to curve the end of this. It's going to come to a point. And we're going to curve this back towards our head. And we want to go until not quite. We want to leave about a finger between our ear and our head. And that's where we're going to do a little bump for the elephant's earlobe. Now inside of my ear, I want to draw a line from my point to my head to show where the pink inside of the elephant's ear is, so we know where to color later. So it's the same line we did here, we're just doing it underneath. Now since our elephant is turned to the side, just like we have one eye, we can only see one big ear, but since the ears are so big, the one on the other side of her head is going to be just poking up here. So I'm going to draw sort of like a little triangle for the back of the ear poking up. Okay, now before we move on to the elephant's body, we're missing a little friend at the end of this trunk, so let's draw our bird. So let's start at the tip of the trunk drawing two straight lines. Those are going to be the bird's legs. Now let's start with the shape of the bird's body. So I'm going to draw a big letter U, or like a smile. Now at the end of my smile here, I'm going to draw a little rainbow. And now all we have to do is connect this to here. And if we want, we can add a little wing. It's going to look sort of like a raindrop poking up. Now let's give our bird a face. Just like our elephant, he's turned to the side. So we're only going to see one eye. It's just going to be a little circle, and then we're going to draw a little triangle for the beak. Okay, now we are ready to move on to our elephant's body. So right now our elephant looks kind of like a snowman. Got a big circle body, but we want our body to be an oval. So what I'm going to do, from where my ear connects with my body, I'm going to extend this out a little bit. From here, big, like a sideways rainbow. And that is going to connect in to the bottom of my circle here. Now we have a body shape that looks more like an elephant. Now if you're not happy with it, you can keep trying. Maybe it needs to be a little bit bigger. I think mine needs to be a little bit bigger. There we go. Now we're going to give our elephant some legs. So our elephant has 4 legs. Let's start with the easiest one to draw. That's going to be our front leg right here. So this is just going to look like a rectangle. So we're going to start at the front of our body. Maybe if we imagine a pretend line that goes straight down from our mouth. And we're going to start here, and we're going to draw a line that goes down close to the bottom of our page. Let's leave about 2 fingers from the bottom. Now we're going to jump over. Maybe our legs are about 2 fingers as well. And we're going to draw another line that goes straight down. And we're going to turn this into a bit of a rectangle by closing this at the bottom for our little elephant foot. Now see how I make my line a little bit curved. It's not completely straight. And we're also going to give our elephant some little toes. I'm going to draw 1, 2, 3 little rainbows. Now let's draw our back leg. It's going to be just like this one, but it's going to be at the back. So let's start again by drawing our straight line down. And our back line is going to come right out from the back of our shape. Straight down. Now we want to try our very best to make sure our legs are the same width. So if this one was 2 fingers, we want to try and make sure this one is 2 fingers as well. And I'm going to draw my curved line for the foot. And 1, 2, 3 little toes. Now we need some back legs. So this leg at the back, we're only going to see a little bit of it. So I'm going to draw 1 line coming down. And it's going to be hiding behind this front leg. So I'm going to draw my curved line at the bottom. And see how it just hides behind this leg. And I'm going to draw my toes. 1, 2, 3. And now we've got 1 leg left. So this leg is going to be a little bit tricky because it's going to be up in the air a little bit. So let's start here where our leg meets the front of our body. And we're going to draw a line that goes straight out. Not quite as far, if we imagine a line. Not quite as far as this. Maybe leave about a finger. Now, from the end of this line, I'm going to come straight down. It's going to make sort of like an L. At the end of there, I'm going to draw my foot. Now remember, 2 fingers. So we want that line to be 2 fingers long. And then we just need to come back up and over. And we've got our little leg. Now let's not forget our toes. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we have one thing left for our elephant. We before we start to draw some of the background, and that is our elephant tail. So I'm going to come right here near the back. Your tail can be coming down, maybe you want it up. I think I'm going to draw mine up, so I'm going to draw a line going up, and then another line going up, and then we just want some crazy hair, just sort of like we did on our head. So I'm going to draw some crazy lines for my elephant tail. Okay, so now that our elephant is all drawn, it looks like she's floating, so let's draw some ground for our elephant to stand on. Now I'm going to start on this side of my paper, and I'm going to draw a line as straight as I can, but she's not standing on concrete. It's probably grass or dirt, so if it's a little bit bumpy, don't worry. Now look how I jump over my leg, and I pretend that my line continues on from here, because we don't want the grass to go through our elephant's legs. So when I get to the legs, I jump over, and I keep going. And that's going to be for our ground. Now, if you do happen to go through your leg, that's okay. Mistakes happen. We're going to color over that later anyways. Now, before we color, let's add some things in the sky. So I'm going to start by drawing a sun up in the corner here. Now, I'm just going to do a circular sun, but if you want, maybe we can add some sun rays, or maybe we want to get really crazy and give our sun some sunglasses. And maybe I'm going to draw some clouds in the sky too. I'm going to start with a straight line, and I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 little bumps. And while we have our white, we can color those clouds in. Now I have 3 clouds, maybe you have 4, maybe you have 5, it's okay, but however many you have, make sure you color them all in with your white. If you need a little bit more time, feel free to pause this video at any point so you can catch up. So now we're ready to add some color. Now you see that we've sketched everything out in white first. So if we look at our finished example, we want to add that layer of color first and save the black for the very end. And that's because if we add our black, we can't put any colors over top, and if we make a mistake, we can't really adjust it. So let's start with yellow and let's color in our sun. Now I think I'm going to color over my sunglasses, but if you had some sunglasses and you want them to be black, we'll save that for the very end. So like I said, I colored over my glasses, but you may still be able to see them a little bit, and that's good because when we come back with our black, we'll be able to outline those lines, and we'll go over some more of this when we color over different lines later, so we don't need to worry about that too much. Next, let's color in our bird. So you guys can pick any color you want for your bird except for black, because we do want to save that for the end. So I'm going to pick this light green, and I'm going to color in my bird. Now just like I said, I have my little eye here, so if we color over that, it's not a problem. We can still see it a little bit, and even if we can't, we are going to go back over that with black later. So let's make sure we take our time, stay inside the lines the best we can, and fill in all of that blank space. Now don't worry about our legs and our beak, that's going to be a different color. So now let's pick a color for our beak. I've got this light orangey yellow color, and I'm going to very carefully fill in my little beak. So our next color is going to be pink. I've got this nice bubblegum pink, and we're going to use that for different parts of our elephant. The biggest part is going to be the inside of our ear. So I'm going to outline where we want to color first, so we know where we want that pink. So I'm going to go around our ear, and I'm going to stop the inside of that ear right where our circle is. And if you remember this shape that we drew, that's going to be gray, so we don't want that to be pink. So let's go ahead and color this in. If you need a little bit more time, feel free to pause this video at any point so you can catch up. So let's go right here, and I'm going to color in my little cheek. If you didn't draw a cheek, you don't need to worry about this part, but I'm going to really quickly color in my pink cheek. Once we're all done our pink, I'm going to grab a light gray, and we're going to start to color in our elephant. Now as we know, elephants are mostly gray, so this might take a while, so remember, pause the video if you need to. Let's start with our ears. Once we've done that, I'm going to move on to my head, and I'm going to be very careful to go around my eye and my cheek, and as well as my hair if it's hanging down on my head. So let's go ahead and color that now. As you can see, I like to outline my shapes first so I know where to color, and then I'm going to go ahead and color them in. Okay, so my head is all colored in. Now I'm going to move on to the body and the legs. Now before we go ahead and color in our body, we want to make sure we don't color in those toes gray, because they're going to be a different color later. And once again, feel free to pause the video at any point to make sure you catch up and color everything in before I move on. Okay, so now that I've colored my body and my legs, I'm going to grab a color for my toes. Now if you want to use white, you can use white, but I'm actually going to use this sort of creamish color. I'm going to color in my toes. Now maybe we want to give our elephant some fancy toes and some little pink nail polish. Next up, we're going to color our ground. Now I'm going to use this darkish green. If you want to use a little bit of a lighter one, whichever green you want is okay. You can also draw some dirt, color it brown, whatever you want your elephant to be standing on. But when we color in our ground, just like we did with our elephant, I'm going to make sure I outline around so we know where to color. So I'm going to go around my legs, so I make sure not to color those in. I'm going to outline my top line here so I know exactly where I want to color. And then we're going to go ahead and color in our ground. Now for things like the ground, if we want to color it in quicker, I might flip my pastel on its side, which we call the belly, and color it in that way, and it'll go a little bit quicker for us. This will also give us a little bit of a texture, make it look more like grass. Now before we move on to our black, we might want to add some shading. So let's start with our grass that we just did. I'm going to grab a different green. So if you use a light green, maybe you want to grab a dark green. I just used dark green, so I'm going to use light green. And I'm going to go over top of that grass lightly. Same thing with the belly. That's going to add some more texture and make it look, again, a little bit more like real grass. And once again, feel free to pause the video at any point to make sure you catch up and color everything in before I move on. So we're going to add some shadows and some highlights by doing some blending with our pastels or whatever we're using. So I have my light gray that I used to color in my elephant, and I also went and found a bit of a darker gray. And we're going to use this to add shadows on our elephant. We need to consider when we're adding shadows and highlights where our light source is. So we know for our picture that our sun is here and it's hitting our elephant here, which means our shadows are going to be on the back side of our elephant, each little leg, and our highlights are going to be on the front. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to take my dark gray, and on the back of my legs, I'm going to color a little bit of dark gray, and maybe I'm going to go up the back, maybe a little bit on the back of the tail, maybe a little bit on this back leg. I'm going to put some dark gray on my belly, and on the back of this leg, and also on the bottom and the back of this leg. Now before we go on to the head, I want to show you how to blend. So we're going to go back with our lighter color, which is our lighter gray, which we used to color in our elephant. And I'm going to sort of color over top a little bit of that dark gray, so it doesn't look like a straight line. We want these colors to really blend together. And if you find you get too much light gray, you can always go back with the dark gray and add a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and take my light gray and blend in all of those shadows I just made. Now you'll notice here I extended this line up a little bit just so it comes in front of that belly. So once I'm happy with my shadows on my body and my legs, I'm going to go ahead and add a few on my head. So let's add some on the chin of our elephant, and maybe on the back of this ear, underneath our trunk, maybe on the back side of this little top of our trunk. So once again, I'm going to go back to my light gray, and I'm going to blend that in. So once I'm all done my shadows, I don't need my dark gray anymore. I'm going to put that away. I'm actually going to take my white back out to add some highlights. So the highlights on the opposite of our shadows are going to go on the front of things. So for this ear, I might put a little bit of white here. I might put a little bit of white on the top of my snout and on my legs. Remember, we're using the same technique as we did for our shadows. I'm going to put a little bit on the top of the back. And how about a little bit on the front of the chest? But just like I did with my shadows, I'm going to take my light gray once again. I'm going to blend that white just so it doesn't look so sharp and so white. We want to blend that in. And there we go. While I still have my white, I'm going to add those sun lines. I think that's going to make my sun pop. So our picture is all colored in, and it may look like it's done, but it's actually not yet. We have one thing left to do. And no, that is not to name our elephant, although we could do that too. But if we look at our finished picture, we can see that we have to add the black. Now we're going to outline our whole picture as well as color in a few things black. And once again, feel free to pause the video at any point to make sure you catch up and color everything in before I move on. Now when I say outline, sometimes that gets confusing. That doesn't mean we want to draw a big circle around our picture. It means all those lines we drew in white, we want to go back over with black. But before we do that, I like to color in what needs to be colored in black. So that's going to start with our eye. So I'm going to outline that eye. Now one thing I should mention, when we're using black, we need to be very, very careful. Black can get messy. So I'm I'm going to go nice and slow, really take my time and make sure I color in the lines. I'm going to color in my eye. Another thing to keep in mind when we're using black, when you're coloring, you might want to try and keep this side of your hand up off your paper so we're not smudging all of our colors and smudging the black. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my 3 eyelashes and my eyebrow. Okay, I'm going to color in my hair. And I want to color in the hair on my tail with my black as well. So now we're ready to outline. Now when we're outlining, we want to work from the top down. So if we start here and we work up here, we might smudge the black that's already down here. So we're going to start with our highest thing and we're going to work our way down. Another thing we want to do, I'll show you as I outline this ear, is we want to try and cover up those white lines that we drew. We don't want them to be poking out as much as we can help it. So let's outline our head. Now when we're outlining things, we don't always have to outline everything we've drawn. So let me show you here. I'm going to outline my chin, and when I get to my ear, I'm going to stop. And that's going to give the illusion of depth, because our head is not at the same level as the inside of our ear. So I'm going to skip here and go up to the top of my ear. I'm going to come back over here and outline my bird. I'm going to outline my beak, and I'm going to redraw my little circle eye, and I'm going to cover those stick legs. Now one thing we can actually add with our black is some details to our elephant's trunk. So at the top of our trunk, let's add some little ovals for nostrils. And on the trunk, let's add some curved lines, like elephants have. Now I'm going to move on to my body. So I'm going to draw the front of my belly, and I don't want this to overlap with my leg, so I'm going to make sure I come down with the leg. And this part of the leg is actually going to overlap our belly. Now the last thing that I'm going to outline on my picture is my grass. So I'm going to outline that top line. Remember, this time we definitely want to make sure we jump over the leg. We can't cover up our black. Now I'm going to leave my sun and my clouds. I think they look good unoutlined, as well as my cheek, but if you want to outline those, you can go ahead and do that now. And there you have it. Our elephant is finished, colored, and outlined. If you did enjoy this project, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel, and check out some of our other projects, and you can try another one. So thanks for joining me, and we hope to see you on our next project.
Here's what's on next time on Kids Arts Day every day. Thanks for watching. See you there.